So, Keir, thanks for talking to us today. Now, you just said that you are going to end the Rwanda scheme, flights and all. So, to be clear, you won't schedule any new flights should you win power, but you won't cancel those already scheduled?
No, there'll be no flights. Every flight that takes off carries with it a cheque to the Rwanda government. I want to scrap the scheme, so that means the flights won't be going, and use the money towards the command, the law enforcement command, that I think is vital to taking down the gangs that are running the vile trade of putting people in small boats to cross the channel.
Just to be really clear, crystal clear, if there are flights already scheduled, will you cancel them? I mean, when you say, are you going to actually stop them and cancel flights, or will you let some fly if they're already scheduled?
Well, I think we need a dose of realism here. This isn't going to be a regular flow of flights. There'll be just a few flights taken off.
Yes.
If we get them before the election, and we may well do. But I'm not interested in continuing that. We're going to scrap the scheme. We're not going to schedule flights. There will be no flights scheduled or taking off after the general election if Labour wins that general election.
Okay, that's new, so you'll actually cancel flights. No flights taking off if you win.
I think the scheme is a gimmick. I'm not flogging a dead horse. I'm not prepared to do government by gimmicks. I want to start on day one, not with flights taking off.
Okay, but just to be clear,
by
no
absolutely investing my political capital in the law enforcement.
No flights take off under a Keir Starmer government from day one.
No flights, no Rwanda scheme. It's a gimmick. It's very expensive. It won't work. What I do want to do is rise to the challenge. No serious government can ignore what's happening with the failure of this government to get control of the borders and the vile trade of small boats, or people being put in small boats to come across the channel. We have to tackle that.
And you have put together a very clear plan today in which you're talking about tackling the gangs. What I want to ask you, though, is that people want outcomes. Crossings at 30,000 2023. You said you want to cut them drastically. I know you might not want to put a figure on it, but this is about trust in politics and politicians. Let me take 2020 levels, about 8,500. Will you commit to trying to get the crossings back down to levels, say, at the beginning of the decade? Can you commit to that?
I think everyone wants to end this vile trade, We shouldn't have people crossing in small boats and arriving in this country. It's a dangerous, perilous journey. It's a complete loss of control of the borders, and it allows the gangs to determine who's coming to the UK. So we have to bring that down. I want to end the vile trade. You talk about trust in politics. I don't think politicians picking arbitrary numbers...
But you must have a target.
I want this to come dramatically down. I want, like everybody else, to end this vile trade. I think that will only happen if we're able to crack smash the gangs that are running this in the first place.
Back to 2020 levels?
I want to bring that number right down. I want to end this vile trade. But it is really important that I explain. When I was chief prosecutor, we had terrorist gangs operating here and in Europe that were a threat to the British public. By pooling our intelligence, our law enforcement, and carrying out joint operations, we took those gangs down. I will never accept that cannot be done with these vile criminal gangs.
I understand.
And that is the most effective way to stop these small boats.
Will you put a number in the manifesto or not?
Look, I'm not going to pluck an arbitrary number because that's been done. Rishi Sunak said he would stop the boats. That hasn't happened. Previous Home Secretaries have promised they'd halve it. That hasn't happened. I don't think you build trust with the public by by pretending this isn't the serious problem that it is.
All right, OK. Natalie Elphicke was by your side today. She's insulted you personally and Labour. She's defended a convicted sex offender and criticised the victims of sexual assault. Jess Phillips told me yesterday that Elphicke joining Labour was like a punch in the guts. She's right, isn't she?
Natalie Elphicke has been very clear about why she has crossed the floor, which is a big thing to do, from the Conservative government to the Labour Party. She says the Conservatives are a byword of incompetence and only Labour can take the country forward. Well, Natalie Elphicke has herself dealt with that in those remarks yesterday.
Did you ask her to put those out?
The bigger picture here is to see that, so many Tory MPs, so many Tory voters, I think, are now reaching the conclusion that the party that they have supported, been part of, voted for, is no longer the party that can take our country forward.
Did you realise that you had a party management issue, and did you ask Natalie Elphicke to put that statement out? Because presumably she said publicly what she told you privately before you let her into the party.
I'm not going to reveal the private discussions that went on before that decision was made.
You've made a personal pledge to halve violence against women and girls. I believe you believe it. Your former shadow minister for domestic violence said letting this woman join the party was a punch in the guts. You had a party management issue. You did, didn't you?
That was dealt with the words that were put out yesterday. But look, I'm in the serious business of showing that this is a changed Labour Party that wants a decade of national renewal with mission-driven government, purpose-driven government, and you're absolutely right that I'm determined that within that we will halve violence against women and girls. I worked really hard on this when I was Director of Public Prosecutions. It really matters to me that we can deliver on that mission.
Let's just finally, though, it has backfired in the sense now you're being asked whether Nigel Farage should join the party. It's like anyone can come into Keir Starmer's party.
I don't think Nigel Farage wants to be anywhere near the Labour Party, and we're not interested. But I am interested in a wider question, which is I do want to say directly to Tory voters, people who voted Tory for a very long time, that the Labour Party, this changed Labour Party, with a mission to take our country forward, is a place where they who have ambitions about their families, their communities and their country can join and be part of what we are trying to build for the whole country.
You're ruthless, aren't you?
Yes, I'm ruthless in trying to ensure we have a Labour government that can change this country for the better. Not ruthless for my own ambition, not ruthless particularly for the Labour Party. I'm ruthless for the country. The only way we'll bring about the change in this country we want is if we're ruthless about winning that general election and putting in place a government of public service. That'll be a major change in politics. I believe politics should be about public service. That's what I've been about all my life, and that the mission should be a decade of national renewal where we bring our country together and make it a better place for everybody.
So you'll do what it takes to win?
Of course.
Do you think you'll win a majority?
I don't know. I hope so. I think it's a challenge. We obviously started from a very low base in 2019. We have been working on this now for 4 years, changing the party. The biggest change is now the Labour Party as a party that puts country first, not party first. We've spent too much of the last decade arguing amongst ourselves as a party. I focus on the voters, I focus on the country.
The reason I asked you, and I've got one final question, in May 2023, you ruled out very clearly to me any sort of deal, confidence and supply, any sort of deal with the SNP. You might remember this interview.
I do remember. I think you asked me a number of times.
You 7 times refused to rule out any sort of deal with the Liberal Democrats. So let's just put it on record now. Are you going all out for a majority, and do you rule out any sort of deal with the Liberal Democrats? You wouldn't do it last year, will you do it now?
Well, look, let me first start where you start your question. I'm ruling out any deal with the SNP before or after the election. Am I going for a majority Labour government? Yes, I am. That depends on whether we can earn the trust and confidence of voters across the country. Had a very good set of local election results, a very good by-election swing up in Blackpool South. We need to keep working hard, keep disciplined, keep focused, and getting our message across, which is something fundamental to me. I think that politicians should serve their country. I think in recent history we've had too many self-indulgent politicians who think it's all about them. That is fundamentally not who I am.
OK, I'm just going to end it acknowledging you have not said that you'll rule out a Liberal Democrat tie-up after a general election.
Well, I'm going for a majority. That's the answer I gave you a year ago. It's the same answer I give you now.
I had longer. I'd asked you 7 more times, but I've run out of time. I'm taking it that you're not ruling it out. Sir Keir Starmer, thank you very much.